Okay. I want you to think of your own anxieties and fears. So I want you to think, and you can even write it on your paper or whatever, of something that brings you that fear and that anxiety. The thought of doing that thing is like your heart starts to beat fast. You start to like sweat. Just the thought of being around whatever it is that you're scared of induces that heart racing. I want you now to think of that if you had to face that fear or that anxiety for 7 hours straight. And then I want you to think of what that would feel like if you had to face that 7 hours up to 5 days a week, every single day. Now, as an adult, we've developed strategies, tools, we have experiences, we might know how to take a deep breath, talk ourselves down. But imagine if you're a child and you don't have that experience, you don't have those tools, you haven't learned any of those things yet, and you have to face that fear. Now imagine if your fear is social situations, unfamiliar situations, and people. And we're putting these children in our school systems, in our childcare centers, and their biggest fear is change, unfamiliarity, people. So I don't know about you, but I go through a roller coaster of emotions because I'm an adult, so I'm gonna go this roller coaster, and I'm gonna start off with sheer panic, right? Your heart starts beating, you start to panic, you start to sweat. It's like, I can't believe this is happening. And then you might go to, because I've got tools and strategies, I'm an adult, you're like, I can do this, I can do this. I'm gonna take a deep breath, I can do this, I can cope with this, it's okay, it's okay, you've got this. But after maybe 7 hours, if you have to face your fear for 7 hours, you might start giving up. You might start saying, I can't do this. I can't do this for another day. I can't do this for another hour. I can't do this for another minute. I can't do this for another second. I give up. So for me, my fear is not being able to breathe. Not being able, like the thought of like being in a tunnel and not seeing the end, and that's just like, whoo, nope, can't go there. I can already feel my heart racing, the thought of not being able to breathe, and especially when I think of underwater. So me, coming from where I'm coming from, I've watched too much Fear Factor, so I can easily picture that vehicle careening off a bridge and starting to submerge in water. Right? I can easily put myself in there, and I think of myself treading that water, and I think of that roller coaster ride, right? I might start off with sheer panic. I can't believe this is happening. Like just absolute panic. And then maybe my tools and strategies might start kicking in, right? Hey, just breathe. Somebody's gonna see you. Somebody's gonna come rescue you, right? I can do this, I can do this. But maybe after 6, 7 hours of treading this water, I'm gonna start thinking of giving up, right? I don't think I can do this anymore. Like I've got no more energy. I'm exhausted. Nobody's coming, right? So that induces that fear response. As soon as you are faced with your anxieties, faced with your fears, it induces that stress response, that fear response, which is fight, flight, or freeze. So when we put children in these situations and they are wired to freeze, we see this child frozen, maybe tears, that brings empathy from us. We can see the fear. It's very apparent, right? Come here. Oh my gosh, like you're scared. Come here, do you need a hug? Like, what do you need? We embrace them, we bring them close. If they're wired to flight, we problem solve. We put safety measures in place, right? We don't want this child running away. This is not safe. We put those things in, we problem solve. But if a child's wired to fight, we just see anger a lot of the time. We don't necessarily see the fear behind that. We see a defiant child who's probably being rude, who's probably yelling at you, right? You're ugly, I hate you, I don't want to be here. Or they're fighting you, right? Physically, where they're hitting, punching, right? They're reacting that way. And they're sometimes not huggable in that moment, right? So sometimes it doesn't bring the empathy in us. Sometimes it triggers our stress response. And if we're wired to fight, now you've got an adult with a 3-year-old and we're going toe to toe, because it brings out this default mechanism in us when we want to control and have power over. And we're like, we need to fix this, and we need to fix this quickly. We need to bring this down, stop being rude, right? It brings this power struggle in us. It brings that out in us. So where do we go from this? When we have these children that display this, sometimes I call them my cactus children because they're very prickly and they're hard to hug, right? When they're feeling that way, they're shooting those pricks at us from their cactuses, right? So where do we go from here? And I always go to the 3 W's. I go to the why, what do we do now? Where do we go from here? And so many times I was told, don't go to the why. Like, what are you doing? Don't go to the why. Sometimes we don't ever know the why with our children. But being a parent and an educator, one, I'm like, why is this more on the rise? Why are we seeing more anxious children? Is one place I go to. The other place I go to is, of course, being a parent of 2 anxious children. I'm like, why? Why? Where did this come from? I feel like they were born to 2, professional, educated people. We have a very calm environment in our house. Why? Why are you like this? I don't understand where this anxiety came from. So I had to go down the why path. I wanted to know why this was occurring more, and I wanted to know why I had 2 boys that displayed that, not just 1, but 2. So of course, as a lovely parent and as a mom, we tend to take on, guess what? We tend to take on this guilt, okay? Right off the bat, I went to, it must have been something I ate. Maybe it was the processed food I ate when I was pregnant. Like I loved salty foods, so I was eating all these ramen noodles and macaroni and cheese, and maybe it was all the preservatives. Maybe that's what did it, right? Maybe that's what did it. Maybe I caused this. Or I realized very quickly as I was going into labor that I had a very low pain threshold. So I was instantly saying, I need something. Like, give me something. I need something. So then you have that lovely, maybe I asked for morphine a little bit too early. Okay, maybe that's what did it. I don't know. And then after they were born and I wanted to sleep, right? I tried the cry it out method and I thought, oh no, like what if it was that? What if I let them cry for too long and they just gave up? And that's what induces anxiety feeling. So when you go down that why path, obviously, you're carrying all this guilt because we love guilt for some reason. We love carrying it around. I went to a workshop and it was about trauma and it was about attachment. And I was listening to this gentleman speak. And he was talking about how, if you don't have good attachment, it leads to trauma. It could lead to anxiety. So I'm listening to him, I'm like, but it still doesn't fit for me. I don't feel like my kids have trauma. Like they have this beautiful environment, like I said, 2 parents that love them. I'm like, this doesn't fit. I don't get it. So on the break, of course, I went and approached him and I said, it doesn't fit my situation. So it really still doesn't answer the why for me. I don't understand. And so I said the same thing. Maybe it was this, maybe it was this, maybe it was this. He's like, well, explain your childbirth to me. And I said, it was a tough one, like 36 hours, this kid didn't want to come out. And of course, the baby's heart rate is up and down. I'm stressed, I'm scared, I don't know what's happening. This is not according to my birth plan. This is not what I thought was gonna happen. And then he was born, emergency C-section. And then I said, I had 3 days where he was placed in my bed. It was beautiful. So the attachment was incredible. And he's like, okay, I want you to think that through. He's like, the attachment might have been there, but that sounded very traumatic for both of you. That was a light bulb moment for me because I've never thought of the childbirth as being the trauma for him. And when I started doing the research, I realized there was a lot of research on how traumatic childbirth affects the mom, but not a lot of research on how it affects the baby moving forward, being brought into that world in that way. When you think of that, right? 36 hours, heart rate up and down, my heart rate, blood pressure going. Of course he's gonna feel that in there. Of course he's gonna come into the world already with this traumatic lens. So that helped a little bit. But it didn't help when I think of children today, and if they didn't have this kind of childbirth, and why? Why are they still so anxious? Where is this coming from? So some of the children that we are seeing today, especially if they've gone through COVID, is our lovely COVID is a big culprit of some of the anxiety we're seeing. So when you think about COVID, we had pros and cons. We had the lovely families that got to stay at home with their kids. right? They got to work from home. So kids were seeing parents every day. They might have shared lunch now with families. We're not running to hockey, running to gymnastics, running to dance. Our entire world kind of slowed down. And so children had this beautiful little environment that they haven't had for a long time. And then suddenly it was over. And suddenly we're going back to work. And families were doing one or two things. They were either celebrating, woohoo, like, oh, I can't wait to get back to things. We didn't give a lot of warning to children. It was just an abrupt, you're going back to school, woohoo. Or the families felt that grief and loss where it's like, oh, we got to go back to the grind. We got to go back to the running around. We got to go back to work. This isn't like this anymore. And so children were back to school and abruptly everything changed. Or during that lovely time, we either had our televisions on in the background, talking about the statistics, talking about the numbers. There's a lot of stress and anxiety in the air, right? The numbers are rising. There's a lot more deaths. We're out of toilet paper. And children feel that. They're sensitive to that. They have wicked radars and antennae. They feel all that, right? Or they heard us on the phones talking with friends, right? Same thing. You're doing that lovely stress response, right? Or you dealt with grief and loss. You might have lost grandparents during that time that you never got an opportunity to say goodbye to. There's a lot going on during that time, and children swallow that. They take that on, and it becomes who they are. So it kind of answered the why for me a little bit. Not enough, but a little bit that I'm like, okay, I can get that. So now I was like, okay, well, what do I do moving forward now, knowing a little bit of the why? How do I deal with these children with this anxiety? Where do I go moving forward? What do I do with these children who are, especially the children who are angry? I know what to do with the children who display this other feelings, but what do I do with these angry, defiant children who are coming in on a daily basis? Well, right off the bat, do you know what I need to do? I don't have space. I don't have space for their big feelings, for their rocks, because I'm carrying my own. So right off the bat, you need to get rid of your rocks. You need to unload. So whether that's finding that best friend who you're like, oh, I need to let go of the fact that I ate preservatives. Oh well, let's move on. I can't do anything about it now. I need to let that go. Or maybe you seek out a therapist where it's like, you know, I tried that cry it out method and I don't know if that was the best thing I should have done. Or maybe you're just a quiet, private introvert that doesn't like to talk to your best friend about these big things or trauma that's happened to you in the past. And maybe you're just an outdoor person who loves to take a hike, who loves beautiful things. And so maybe you take that hike and you throw your rocks into a beautiful lake at a sunset. Whatever works for you, get rid of your stuff. You're still going to have maybe one rock that we love to carry wherever we go, or maybe we can make it smaller by going to therapy and we put it in our pockets because we love pockets. So we make those rocks smaller and then it becomes who we are, and that's okay, right? We need some of that resiliency. We need some of that to become who we are, to make us stronger, and that part's okay. But I need empty hands. I need empty hands to take on the rocks of other children. I need that. So when those children come to us, how now do we deal with it? Well, now I have the room for these big feelings. And guess what? They're not going to come to you and hand their rocks to you gently because they haven't learned these tools and strategies yet. So in the beginning, they are chucking these rocks at you. I hate you. I don't want to be here, right? They're angry. They're throwing these rocks at you. But showing and making that environment safe for them, where you're like, I'm here, ducking and weaving as they throw those rocks at you, you know, put up the shield. It's like, I'm still here. Showing them that unconditionally, I'm still going to be here. Unconditionally, I love you, I like you, and I'm still going to be here tomorrow and the next day and the next day. I can handle this. I've got empty hands. I can handle this. So bring it. I'm okay with that. So showing them that, first of all, we have a safe environment. You can throw your rocks. I'm right here. And then once they see that it's safe and you're still going to show up day after day after day, I'm still here. I still like you. I still look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Then suddenly they feel safe enough to start giving you their rocks in a different way. Because now they're going to start connecting with you in that relationship way. And then once they feel that safety and that connection, they're going to start sharing those big feelings. And you might need to give them the words. You seem frustrated today. You seem sad today. And they might say to you, I'm really sad that my mom left me at preschool or daycare. I'm really frustrated because the day seems so long. My mom and dad are yelling at each other. Okay? They're going to start sharing these things with you, these big rocks, and they're going to learn to share them with you in a better way. And yes, there's still going to be days that they're chucking at them. They're children, they're learning these tools and strategies. So there's still going to be days that they're throwing their rocks. But the more that we're showing them, that we're showing up for them, and that they could pass them in a gentle way, that is going to help them as they move forward. They're going to be like, okay, you're still going to be here. I'm going to give you this rock. I'm going to share these big feelings with you. And that's how we build those relationships. But if we're standing at the sidelines, if we're like one of those that, the ones that just stare at them and don't really do anything, it's like you need to get down on the floor. You need to show them that, because passing rocks when you're on the floor right beside them is a lot easier than when you're standing over top of them and they're trying to chuck those rocks up to you, right? You need to get down on the floor with them. So it's really important to be able to give them some words for those big feelings, for able to show them that this is a safe environment. You can share those rocks with me, and let's build this connection. When my son was going to preschool, and this was my eye-opener for where I realized that this wasn't just him being a defiant, rude child, that everybody said he was defiant. It was more of, he was chucking his shoes at me, right? He was mad. He was going to preschool and he's chucking his shoes. And I just said to him, I don't understand. I don't understand why you're so mad that I bring you to preschool. When I pick you up, you're always happy. Like, you're so mad. And he just looked at me with that angry face and he said, I'm not mad. I'm sad that you're leaving me. Oh, how was that moment? I'm like, oh, you're not mad. You're sad, but it's displayed as anger. And that was that moment for me. That was that light bulb moment when I was like, oh my gosh, I'm not seeing the fear. I'm just seeing the anger. So I want you to remember that when we see these children that are displaying in anger, if you always look at these angry children as scared children, you will look at them differently. You will look at them differently. And even if fear is not the basis behind it, you will do no harm, because you will always come from a place of empathy if we see scared, anxious children that just need our help versus an angry, defiant children that we need to fix. All behavior is communication, all of it. And they're trying to tell you something, and we just need to really listen and get past this idea that they're defiant and they're angry and they're rude. It's like, no, it's a scared child that just needs our help and our support and needs to learn how to pass these rocks in a safe way so that they are not rock throwers or rock carriers for the rest of their life. So let's help them with that by creating those safe environments, getting rid of your rocks so that you have this freedom, this ability to take on their rocks and help them with